sweet the sound.
Hello friends, welcome back to ABN and the Trinity channel for another episode of Islam and the News. Today is Friday, April 28th in the year of our Lord 2017. And once again, I am back with many news stories from around the world, giving you headlines that you will not hear in the mainstream media, of course, with many photos and videos as well. And we want to thank you for continuing to pray for ABN and the Trinity channel, as well as supporting us financially, because it costs thousands and thousands of dollars every single month to get satellite feeds to the Middle East, North Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. And now we're on a number of internet-based platforms as well. Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, Chromecast Stick, IPTV, smart TVs. The list goes on. And as ABN's digital tree continues to grow, you'll continue to find new platforms that you can watch ABN and the Trinity channel. Sometimes the app that you will download for certain devices will be ABN Sat, where at other times it will be Trinity channel. So please go to trinitychannel.com or even abnsat.com and look for the platforms and look to see what the name of the app needs to be that you need to look for in order to get ABN the Trinity channel on your device. But Apple devices, Android devices, the list continues to grow as we continue to spread throughout more platforms, more technology that the Lord is definitely using for his glory as we do weekly shows, as well as the ongoing International Apologetics Marathons twice a year, and of course the debates and everything else that we're doing as well. Now, again, as you've heard, we are having to make some hard decisions because the finances have been low. If you watch only through a satellite feed, here's something I'd like you to do. I would like you to email ABN or call ABN and let us know what satellite feed you want us to keep no matter what, because we need to find out who is watching through what satellites the most. I mean, Middle East, we want to keep that going for sure. But when the finances are low and we have to make hard decisions on, okay, if we have to cut something, what is it going to be? We really need to have your feedback. So please email, call, and let us know what satellite you watch through, especially if that's the only technology source that you have, other than phone, which we're asking you to use to call us, or other than email, which we're asking you to email. But just let us know. Let us know what satellites are vital for us keeping them no matter what. And we can then gauge, okay, where can we cut if we need to cut? Now, if the Lord provides through you, which he has done for years, then we don't need to cut anything. But at this time, the finances are low, and we're asking you to please support ABN and the Trinity channel and allow all of this work to continue. But you can email info@trinitychannel.com. That's INFO at trinitychannel.com, or call. Let us know how you view the Trinity channel. Even if you view through a internet platform, let us know, just so we can start gauging where is our main audience. Again, we don't want to cut anything, because if we cut something today and then all of a sudden somebody finds out about us tomorrow and whatever we cut was really the only access that they could have had, then all of a sudden we can't reach that person. But as you know, these shows are going throughout the world. The Lord is using them for his glory. I can guarantee you, I've heard many stories just this last week, amazing stories about how the Lord is using these shows to reach Muslims throughout the world. So please continue to pray for us and support us financially to allow this to continue. But on to the news. I have here from Al-Alam, large explosion rocks Syrian capital. A huge explosion rocked an area close to the Damascus airport. This happened early yesterday, followed by a fire near the Damascus airport, activists and a monitor said. The explosion was heard across the capital, jolting residents awake, the head of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Rami Abdurrahman, said. He said the explosion was reported to have happened near the Damascus airport road. The dawn explosion was also reported by other activist networks, but the source was unclear. The explosion near the airport road was followed by flames rising above the area, and a pro-government site, Damascus Now, said the explosion was near the city's 7th bridge, which leads to the airport road. Syria is in the 6th year of a bloody civil war, pitting the government of President Bashar al-Assad and his allies against opposition forces that has left more than 400,000 people dead. Meanwhile, ISIS is developing new weapons despite losses. Here, according to Al Arabiya, ISIS militants have developed an improvised explosive device, IED, that can be launched from rifles or dropped from an aerial drone, an arms monitoring group said on Wednesday. Conflict Armament Research said the militant group was, quote, promoting the development of own-brand weapons to provide its insurgents with otherwise unavailable armaments. The IED can be thrown, launched from an improvised rifle attachment, or, in its most recent phases of development, dropped from a commercial, off-the-shelf, unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, or drone. Carr said this in a report following visits to Mosul in November. Also, from Al Arabiya, have Iraqi forces retake ancient city of Hatra from ISIS. Iraqi pro-government forces announced Wednesday their recapture of the UNESCO-listed ancient city of Hatra from ISIS. It says here, quote, Hashad al-Shabi forces liberated the ancient city of Hatra after fierce clashes with the enemy, said the paramilitary group. Hatra, which lies in the desert southwest of Iraq's second city, Mosul, includes a UNESCO World Heritage Site. ISIS destroyed priceless objects in Hatra and at other archaeological sites after seizing swaths of Iraq and Syria in a lightning 2014 offensive. The full extent of the harm to Hatra remains unclear. Hatra, known as the Al-Hadr in Arabic, was established in the 3rd or 2nd century BC and became a religious and trading center under the Parthian Empire. Its imposing fortifications helped it withstand sieges, by the forces of the 2 Roman emperors. Also, surrounding Iraq, I have here from Newsweek, war in Iraq, ISIS dressed as soldiers to slaughter civilians and troops. Militants loyal to the Islamic State group have disguised themselves as pro-Iraqi government forces to slaughter civilians and Iraqi soldiers in an attempt to defend their final embattled stronghold of Mosul, according to local officials. One group of ISIS fighters reportedly donned Iraqi federal police and security forces uniforms and drove black cars into a central district of Mosul's old city. The neighborhood is located near the front lines of an offensive led by Iraqi troops, Kurdish forces, Iran-backed Shiite militias, and a U.S.-led coalition to drive the ultra-conservative Sunni Muslim group from its already shrinking territory in the country. Civilians flocked to welcome what appeared to be a pro-government convoy entering the neighborhood, and the jihadists began singing and chanting to feign celebration that the area had been supposedly cleared of ISIS forces, according to a report published by Lebanon's The Daily Star. The militants then began executing the locals, killing at least 15 civilians and arresting scores more. The dead included men, women, and children who ISIS targeted to, quote, to make it clear the area was still under enemy control, unquote, according to a statement Tuesday by Iraq's Joint Operations Command that was cited by The Dependent. News of the attack followed reports of another deadly trick pulled Sunday by ISIS militants targeting the Iraqi army in a remote western region of the nation where the jihadists claim outposts of support. Under the cover of a sandstorm, the militants dressed as Iraqi soldiers ambushed a convoy of actual Iraqi troops using a rogue checkpoint, as one Iraqi army lieutenant colonel described. Now, at the same time, ISIS is continuing to lose control of other areas, and people, as I've reported in weeks past, are fighting back continually. I have a video here. Here it says from Al Arabiya, Egyptian tribe burn ISIS militant in Sinai. An Egyptian tribe released a video that showed what they claim to be an ISIS militant being burned alive in Sinai. In the video, the Al-Tarabin tribesmen are heard threatening to burn and kill other ISIS members in response to a threat from the extremist group for cooperating with the army and police against them. One of the tribe members said to Al Arabiya that they burnt one of the most important ISIS leaders, who previously killed and burnt 3 citizens and a police officer. This is actually a video, so we're going to go ahead and play it for you now. Meanwhile, from Al Arabiya, 40 dead in rebel extremist clashes near Damascus. Fierce clashes between extremists and Islamists rebels near Damascus left at least 40 dead and 70 wounded on Friday, a monitoring group said. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the clashes pitted the rebel faction of Jaish al-Islam, Army of Islam, against Fatah al-Sham, al-Qaeda's former branch in Syria, in Falak al-Rahman. There were at least 15 dead among the ranks of Jaish al-Islam and 23 among its adversaries, as well as 2 civilians, the Britain-based observatory said. Another 70 were wounded. Jaish al-Islam said its opponents had provoked the clashes by harassing reinforcements headed for Kabul, east of the Syrian capital, a front with regime forces. Failaq al-Rahman denied this allegation. Now, from the Associated Press, I do have reports U.S. troops deploy along Syrian-Turkish border. U.S. armed vehicles are deploying in areas in northern Syria along the tense border with Turkey, a few days after a Turkish airstrike that killed 20 U.S.-backed Kurdish fighters, a Syrian war monitor and Kurdish activists said Friday. Footage posted by Syrian activists online showed a convoy of U.S. armored vehicles driving on a rural road in the village of Tarbasiya, a few hundred meters from the Turkish border. Clashes in the area were reported between Turkish and Kurdish forces Wednesday, a day after the Turkish airstrike, which also destroyed a Kurdish command headquarters. Speaking of Turkey, I have here from Al Arabiya, Erdogan, we want a new start with the U.S. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced on Friday that he and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump would open a new chapter in relations between Turkey and the United States by mid-May. It says here, quote, "I am confident that we will have a new chapter in Turkish-American relations with Trump," unquote. Erdogan said at a seminar organized by the Atlantic Council in Istanbul. He criticized Washington's support for Kurdish factions fighting extremists in northern Syria. This comes ahead of a meeting of Erdogan and Trump in Washington on May 16th and 17th, which would be their first meeting since Trump became president. So it will be interesting to see what happens at that meeting. Hopefully Donald Trump knows what Erdogan has been up to over there in Turkey and talks with him about that. Meanwhile, from Al Monitor, I have here out of Egypt, Egyptian performer faces uproar over Ramadan show. Out of Cairo, it says Egyptian actress Sama El-Masri announced on Instagram March 26th that she would host a religious show during the upcoming holy month of Ramadan. The announcement sparked controversy in Egypt amid objections from Al-Azhar scholars and the Egyptian parliament. The question is now whether Al-Azhar will ban the show, for Masri as a media figure of questionable reputation and a long record of controversy. She is the owner of the Sky production company and runs a satellite channel called El Falal, The Remnants, which in the past she used to broadcast shows opposing the Muslim Brotherhood regime. Egyptians described her as a dancer and a porn star because she uses sexually suggestive content in both her YouTube videos and on her El Falal channel, which is currently off the air. Masri ran in the 2015 parliamentary elections, but Egypt's Supreme Administrative Court disqualified her before the vote. Meanwhile, out of from Breitbart, I have Saudi man sentenced to death for atheist social media videos. Saudi Arabian citizen Ahmad al-Shamri has been sentenced to death on charges of atheism and blasphemy after he uploaded several anti-Islam videos to social media. Just as Muhammad killed those who insulted him, or had his followers kill those who insulted him, as we see here, there is no freedom of speech, there is no criticizing Islam if you are living under Shari'ah. It says here, Shamri first came to the authorities' attention in 2014 after allegedly uploading videos to social media in which he renounced Islam and the Prophet Muhammad, reported The Independent. He was arrested on charges of atheism and blasphemy and held in prison before being convicted by a local court and sentenced to death in February of 2015. He lost his second appeal earlier this week, where he claimed to be under the influence of alcohol and drugs at the time. Shamri started a trend on Twitter this past week as many Muslim users celebrated his sentencing. It says, if you're a low-key atheist, that's fine. But once you talk in public and criticize God or religion, then you shall be punished, said one post, according to The Independent. Another one said, I wish there could be live streaming when you cut his head off. In March, Breitbart News reported that more citizens of Saudi Arabia had joined ISIS than any other country. And also, there has been Actually, I don't have it with me right now, but there actually was not a poll, but a graph that was done showing which countries actually tweet the most as far as support for ISIS. And Saudi Arabia was up there at #1 as sending out the most tweets in support. Next, I have from UN Watch, no joke, UN elects Saudi Arabia to Women's Rights Commission, and this is for the 2018 to 2022 term. It says the Geneva-based human rights group UN Watch condemned the UN's election of Saudi Arabia, quote, the world's most misogynistic regime, to a 2018-2022 term on its Commission on the Status of Women, the UN agency exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. Now, Hillel Neuer, executive director of UN Watch, said electing Saudi Arabia to protect women's rights is like making an arsonist into the town fire chief. It's absurd and morally reprehensible. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, I have here from Bare Naked Islam, who knew the Prophet Muhammad discovered a cure for cancer. Following a Moroccan TV report on the drinking of camel urine as a cure for cancer, Moroccan oncologists have slammed the claim, saying that camel urine is not fit for human consumption. Apparently, that hasn't stopped millions of Arab Muslims from drinking the potion for its supposed health benefits. I have here from Reuters, international scientific studies have linked MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, to camels. But disease experts say it is not at all clear how the infection passes from the animals. Many people infected in the community and in hospitals report no contact with camels. They note, MERS causes coughing, fever, and breathing problems and can lead to pneumonia and kidney failure, even death. Who would have thought? While many of these people may not have access to camels, there is an abundance of camel-based products on the market, not the least of which is camel urine for human consumption. So I actually have a video for you here that lets you know about this claimed medicinal purpose of camel urine, as well as its how it is compiled and how it is then given to people. So let's go ahead and roll that video for you now.
في الطريق المؤدية إلى منطقة عين عودة ضواحي الرباط تستوقفك هذه الجمال، حوالي 40 جملا وناقة. قد يبدو تواجدهم في هذه المنطقة الفلاحية أمرا عاديا، ما ليس عاديا هو سبب تواجدهم، فالهدف طبي محض. بول الناقة حسب صاحبها يقوم مقام الأدوية التي تعالج مختلف أنواع السرطان وتقضي على العديد من الأمراض الأخرى. وجدنا سعيد يحضر 10 لترات لمريض قادم من طنجة. سعيد يحكي لنا عن سحر هذه الوصفة وعن طريقة استعمالها.
البول اصلا هو حديث نبوي، وهو كي يقلل هذه الامراض بحال ديال السرطانات والمعده وهذا الشيء ديال المعده، وفيه فوائد الحمد لله، فيه فوائد بزاف، وبزاف ديال الناس كيجوا الحمد لله كيقول لك راه جبرنا فيه الدواء وبراو الناس.
والكميه ديال البول شحال كتعطيوها؟
والكميه بحال دابا يطرو كيدي واحد 4 ولا نص يطرو، ومع الصباح كيبقى يشرب شويه، واحد 2 معالق ولا 3 كيسخن، هي كيدفيهم مع الصباح وكيشرب البول هو الاول، وكيتسنى واحد شويه وكيشرب عليه الحليب. هذا هو الاستعمال ديالو.
الذين صادفناهم هنا أخبرونا عن فوائد لبن وبول الناقة التي تساعدهم على الشفاء من الكثير من الأمراض.
كاين الناس حالات سرطان اللي لقاو، كاين اللي عنده السرطان اما توقف او تعطل، توقف النمو ديال الخلايا السرطانيه، او كاين الناس اللي كانوا في مراحل اولى وتعالجوا.
بول الناقة علاج فعال للسرطان ولأمراض أخرى عديدة، أمر يطرح أكثر من علامة استفهام وتعجب أيضا. على أي أساس بني هذا الصرح الطبي؟ وعلى أي دراسة استند؟ ماذا يقول الطب عن هذا السائل السحري في الوقت الذي تصرف فيه الأموال الطائلة على الأبحاث الطبية، والعلماء يفنون حياتهم داخل المختبرات العالمية الكبرى من أجل اكتشاف أدوية فعالة؟
ما صحة مثل هذه الفرضيات؟
هذه لا تقبل بصفة نهائية. هذا خطأ، هذا الشيء اللي كيقولها خطأ على جميع المرضى. وكثر دابا الحظوظ ديال الشفاء ديال السرطان كبيرة، لا عند الصغير ولا عند الكبير. اليوم السرطان بحال ديال الثدي ولا غير ديال الثدي ولا ديال الدم 70 80 90 95% ديال الشفاء.
صحيح.
لا يعقل ولا يسمح أن تسمع هذا الكلام.
نعرفوا أن البول ديال الناقة كيبقى بول، لا شيء ولا أكثر، وأن الإنسان ما يمكنلوش يشرب البول. داكوغ، هادو البديهيات ديال المنطق. ما يمكنلكش عند شي واحد تقول له شرب البول، ولأنه البول ديال الناقة خصك لاش غادي فيه الماء، فيه بزاف د الحوايج، ويمكن فيه شي حاجه مي فيه 99% ديال الحوايج خايبين اللي يمكن لهم ياثروا على صحته. واذا كانت فيه شي حاجه خص نجبدوها بوحدها ونحللوها ونعرفوها ونعطيوها للمريض كعلاج، ماشي غنبقاو غير سايهين واحد كيشرب يطرو واحد كيشرب معلقه واحد هذاش غير شعوذه ماشي علاج.
So, believe it or not, this actually is a practice that takes place despite the feedback there, despite the input of the doctors who advise otherwise. Believe it or not, there are even conferences on, quote, the wonders and secrets of healing from camel urine. That camel urine is the miracle of our time and is a gift from Muhammad to mankind. Fatin Horshid of the King Fahd Medical Research Center sees it as the ultimate solution to all sorts of ailments like cancer, digestive tract diarrhea, sexual dysfunction, liver disease, skin ulcers, cosmetics, etc. But despite all of that, again, this really does happen, and people continue to do this, as you are about to see. So, can we please open up the gates of ijtihad on this? Can we please start talking about if this is a good practice or not? As you saw and heard, we have medical doctors in the area who are saying, no, this is not a good thing to do, despite tradition and despite what you've been doing for so long. So please let's open up the gates once again and talk about this. But moving on to China, I have China bans several Islamic baby names, including Muhammad in volatile Muslim majority region of Xinjiang. In its ongoing crackdown on Islam in China, dozens of popular Muslim baby names, including Islam, Quran, Mecca, Jihad, Imam, Saddam, Hajj, and Medina, are banned under ruling Chinese Communist Party's naming rules for ethnic minorities. Yes, it says here, China has banned dozens of Islamic names for babies belonging to the restive Muslim majority Xinjiang province, in a move that would prevent children from getting access to education and government benefits, a leading rights group said on Tuesday. Xinjiang authorities have recently banned dozens of names with religious connotations common to Muslims around the world on grounds that they could exaggerate religious fervor, the Human Rights Watch said. Children with banned names will not be able to obtain household registration essential for accessing public school and other social services, it said. The new measures are part of China's fight against terrorism in this troubled region, home to 10 million Muslim ethnic minority. This is the latest in a slew of new regulations restricting religious freedom in the name of countering religious extremism, the HRW said. Conflicts between the Aghar and the Han, the majority ethnic group in China that also controls the government, are common in Xinjiang. A full list of names has not yet been published, and it is unclear exactly what qualifies as a religious name, it said. On April 1st, Xinjiang authorities imposed new rules prohibiting the wearing of abnormal beards or veils in public places and imposing punishments for refusing to watch state TV or radio programs. These policies are blatant violations of domestic and international protections on the rights to freedom of belief and expression, the HRW said. Punishments also appear to be increasing for officials in Xinjiang who are deemed to be too lenient. So China is just one more country out there who does not have the freedom like we have in America. And we see what all countries have the capability of doing if they get rid of freedom. Now, of course, we do want to make a distinction between the Islamists and between the jihadists and between your nominal Muslims. Now, we've talked before many times about in America there being a Constitution and Bill of Rights, which gives you freedom of religion. That means you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. You can practice your religion insofar as you do not infringe upon the rights of other Americans. That means that if you're a Muslim in America, you have the right to say you're a Muslim. You have the right to go to a mosque. You have the right to pray 5 times a day, to fast during the month of Ramadan, etc., etc. But as soon as you do anything because you're a Muslim, and that thing infringes upon the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the rights of other Americans, that is when your religion's expression has gone too far. So, in America, you can freely practice your religion as long as it does not infringe upon the rights of other people. Now, in other countries where they don't have a constitution and Bill of Rights, of course, when you're under a dictatorship, they can just, outlaw everything if they want to. They say, hey, there's no religion whatsoever, and all of that. So, we definitely want America to be a beacon of hope for other countries and for Christians who are in other countries to look to, saying, hey, we may not agree with everything that comes out of America. I mean, America is not a Christian nation. Not everything that gets exported from America is Christian, quote unquote. But America is a country that was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and there is a Constitution and a Bill of Rights. So there is way more freedom here than many countries throughout the world. Moving on to Barnabas, I have this is out of Indonesia. We haven't had some Indonesian news for a while, but this is actually an update on a story that I talked about quite a while back. Barnabas Funds has Indonesia blasphemy charge against Christian governor dropped a day after he loses to a Muslim in election. I talked about this before. Prosecutors announced last week that they were dropping their claim that Ahok had insulted Islam the day after the Christian incumbent lost to a Muslim in Jakarta's governor elections. Ahok will still face trial on charges of showing animosity towards others. Showing animosity towards others, he's facing charges for which prosecutors are demanding a non-custodial sentence. But the blasphemy charge, which had come to define the election, has been dropped. And what perfect timing, right? I mean, this charge was brought up when he got into this race, and then now that he loses, we see clear proof here that it was a false charge to begin with. It's dropped. They're still charging him with something else, but that ridiculousness continues, and we see that throughout the world in the different countries where they are oppressing Christians and don't want freedom of speech. If you, again, just like we talked about earlier in Saudi Arabia, there is no freedom of speech. There is no criticizing Islam. There is no criticizing Muhammad, and we see the realities of that in countries that are under Shari'ah to any degree, and we even see it here in the West where we're not under Shari'ah, but the next best thing that the Islamophiles out there, right? Muslims who are practicing Islamophilia, right? Because they love Islam. They're always saying Islamophobe and Islamophile, right? Or we got to bring in these opposites as far as the name calling in terms, right? But as we know, the name calling doesn't do anything for us. They're just ad hominem attacks. And why don't we just talk about it, right? We need to love Muslims, but we need to be free to criticize Islam. And we only do that because we care about Muslims. We care about people. And if what we believe is that Islam is false and that there are eternal consequences to that, then the most unloving thing we can do is say, well, I'll just believe it anyway. right? Because if what you believe and you being wrong causes you to end up in hell, if I care about you, I will warn you about that. And part of that warning includes that what you believe is actually wrong. So letting someone know that they are wrong, especially when it comes to something that has to do with where we will spend eternity, is actually a loving thing to do. So we love people because all people are made in the image of God, and we love Muslims. That's why we let them know about what Islam actually teaches if they don't study it themselves. We let them know about true Islamic history, and we let them know the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ at the same time. Now, speaking of Indonesia, I have here from Bare Naked Islam. It says, "Damn it, Mike Pence, educate yourself about Muslims in Indonesia before you start declaring that Indonesia's moderate, quote-unquote, Islam is an inspiration to the world." It says here, Vice President Mike Pence visited the Istiqlal Mosque in Jakarta today during the first visit by a Trump administration official to Indonesia. Pence noted that, quote, "the largest majority Muslim country, Indonesia's tradition of moderate Islam, frankly, is an inspiration to the world." Out of PJ Media, it says the Masjidil Istiqlal, the largest mosque in Southeast Asia that can accommodate 200,000 worshippers, is the same one President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama visited during Obama's 2010 trip to the world's most populous Muslim country. As is custom, Pence removed his shoes while wife Karen Pence and daughters Audrey and Charlotte also donned headscarves. Now we have some more pictures for you with the story as well. At Merdeka Palace, remarks with Indonesian President Joko Widodo before the mosque tour, Pence said President Trump sent me here as a sign of the high value that the United States places on our strategic partnership with Indonesia. As you continue to view these pictures here. As the second and third largest democracies in the world, our two countries share many common values, including freedom, the rule of law, human rights, and religious diversity, he said. The United States is proud to partner with Indonesia to promote and protect these values, the birthright of all people. With President Trump's leadership, the United States intends to deepen our cultural ties with the nation and the good people of Indonesia. Later today, I'm greatly humbled to have the privilege to visit Indonesia's National Mosque, where I'll have the opportunity to speak with leaders of many faiths. And, Mr. President, I'm very much looking forward to that visit and that honor. In your nation, as in mine, religion unifies. It doesn't divide. It gives us hope for a brighter future, and we are all grateful for the great inspiration that Indonesia provides for the world. The vice president added, "Rest assured, under President Trump, the United States welcomes all who share our values and strive for that brighter future." As the largest Muslim population country in the world, as well as the third largest democracy in the world, Indonesia also agreed to strengthen cooperation on peace, Widodo added. That is what I can convey to you all in this auspicious occasion. The population in Indonesia is about 87% Muslim, 7% Protestant, 3% Catholic, and less than 2% Hindu, with other faiths including Buddhism and Confucianism making up the balance. From WND, I have, "Look where Christianity is on fire." Islam's fastest growing faith in US and Europe, but not in this region of the world. A new study reflects a historic population shift that has been years in the making and indicates that Christianity's future lies less in America or Europe and more in sub-Saharan Africa. By 2060, a plurality of the world's Christians, more than 40%, will call sub-Saharan Africa home, up from 26% in 2015, according to the new analysis of demographic data by Pew. At the same time, the share of Christians living in many other regions, notably Europe, is projected to further decline, even as the Muslim population there continues to rise. From Refugee Resettlement Watch, I have, "Trump has admitted 12,218 refugees since Inauguration Day, 1,472 Syrians and 1,000 359 Somalis. Since we are coming up to 100 days, I was anxious to see how Trump was doing with this campaign promise to at least put a moratorium on the UN-US refugee admissions program for 120 days to review how refugees are vetted and look to assure extreme vetting was in place. Ho-hum isn't happening, and I don't want to hear of one defender who says what he was stymied by judges. He never had to place a refugee slowdown in an executive order. The Refugee Act of 1980 gives the president enormous powers. So if you go to this site, you will see more information about that and a screenshot about what he's talking about and, of course, the numbers that have flowed into America since he has taken office. But from Raymond Ibrahim, I have Why Islamists and Fascists Persecute Christians. A study from the Europe-based Center for Studies on New Religions recently confirmed that Christians continue to be the most persecuted believers in the world, with over 90,000 followers of Christ being killed in the last year, and this was 2016, which computes to one death every 6 minutes. The study also found as many as 600 million Christians around the world were prevented from practicing their faith. Which group is most prone to persecute Christians around the world? The answer to this was made clear by another recent study. It found that of the 10 nations around the world where Christians suffer the worst forms of persecution, 9 are Islamic, though the absolute worst, North Korea, is not. From WND as well, I have Huma Abedin's family under federal investigation. Yes, Hillary's top aide cited in relatives' Wall Street corruption case. While Hillary Clinton loyal aide Huma Abedin was reportedly sidelined in the final stretch of the 2016 presidential campaign as a result of Abedin's husband's child porn scandal, she was potentially an even greater liability than known. It turns out Anthony Weiner wasn't only the family member under investigation. In fact, the U.S. Justice Department has been actively prosecuting 2 other Abedin family members for conspiracy, wire fraud, and securities fraud. And she, along with the State Department, where she previously worked for Clinton, are mentioned in the federal case, court records show. Other documents reveal the same allegedly crooked kin solicited Abedin for help at state in a deal that netted more than $1.2 million in federal grants. These undesirable family connections, revealed here for the first time, raise fresh questions about the influence peddling at the State Department under Clinton, who is now reportedly working with Abedin on a political comeback. Abedin's relatives were major donors to the Clinton Foundation, and Abedin drew a salary from the Clinton Foundation, while at the same time working for the government. Now, speaking of that kind of stuff, I have here from Free Beacon, FBI investigating radical terrorists in all 50 states as threats hit peak. Federal authorities have opened investigations into radical Islamic terrorists in all 50 states, according to the Department of Homeland Security, which is warning that the threat of terrorism in the United States has reached an all-time high, with radicalized individuals in the country plotting to strike, quote, each and every single day. The FBI has, quote, opened terrorist investigations in all 50 states, according to DHS Secretary John Kelly, who disclosed on Tuesday that there have been at least 37 ISIS-linked plots to attack our country since 2013, a number that shows no signs of diminishing. Now, why is this happening? I mean, aren't all of these people trying to give evidence that Islam's the religion of peace? Why, if it's a religion of peace, do they not continue to be peaceful when you criticize it? Or if you don't say anything about it at all, they're still out there doing non-peaceful things. And again, as I mentioned last week, this is the exact reason why we need to ask when people say Islam says that Islam is a religion of peace, according to Islam, it's a religion of peace. What do they mean by peace? If you don't ask that question, And you just think right away, well, peace means like, you know, American peace and tranquility, everything's calm, everything's fine kind of peace. And that's what you think of every time you hear that Islam means peace or Islam's a religion of peace. No. What does peace mean according to Islam? Peace is when the whole world is under Shari'ah and there's no Jahiliyyah. There's no Dar al-Harb. The whole world's under Shari'ah. There's no ignorance that is influencing Muslims throughout the world because the whole world's under Shari'ah. So supposedly there's no Jahiliyyah. There's no more ignorance. And therefore there's no peace against the Islamic worldview. Of course, at that time, it's said that under Sharia is the perfect environment to have no compulsion in religion. But I digress. So let's move on here. I have U.S. Green Party goes all in for Islam. Yes, if you haven't heard, religion's highest goal is peace. Okay, we need to get the Green Party to watch this episode that we're doing right now so they can hear what I just said. It says the U.S. Green Party has put out a briefing paper for party activists instructing them to work with the Council on American Islamic Relations, yes, CARE, and other Islamists in fighting Islamophobia, quote unquote, and, quote, oppression in all its forms. Now, do they know that the Quran says that oppression is worse than killing? So feeling oppressed is worse than killing, okay? We need to let the Green Party know so that we don't continue to have what I'm about to read here. According to the document, Islamophobia is a, quote, contrived fear or prejudice fomented by the existing Eurocentric and Orientalist global power structure and should be treated as a type of racism. How so, if it's not a race, okay? It's not racism, right? The fact that Islam is a religion / political ideology and not a race, thank you, seems not to stand in the way of the Green Party's burgeoning alliance with Islam, says Robert Spencer. Thank you, Robert, author of the Jihad Watch blog and several best-selling books about Islam. The Green Party, like other left-of-center parties and movements, is willing to put aside its more secular worldview and adopt Islamic groups because their shared interests trump their differences. And part of the differences is that they are part of the similarities, I should say. Part of the similarities that they don't like Trump. A little play on words there. So they are against Trump as a group. They're saying, hey, we have our differences, but we're both against Trump, and he's bigger concern than our differences. So let's just work together and focus on combating him. Now, from California, or from Front Page Mag, in reference to California, California Democrats make Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day disappear. CARE-sponsored Muslim Day at the Capitol takes its place. Yes, believe it or not, Monday, April 24th was Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day, and in Los Angeles, thousands marched in the street outside the Turkish consulate. Up in Sacramento, ruling Democrats ignored the Armenians and instead held Muslim Day at the Capitol, hosted by the Council on American Islamic Relations. Trump reignites spirit of justice for Muslim Day at Capitol was the headline, the news article in the Sacramento Bee, whose April 24th edition included not a word about the Armenians Day. As CARE's Yanina Casillas explained, the election of Trump and the campaign in general kind of reignited a spirit of justice within the community that was very much dormant. A lot of people are really interested in getting more involved. Now, my comment here is, well, just like we need to ask, what do they mean by peace? We need to ask, what do they mean by justice? Because that is also a term that needs to be defined. But continuing on with California, I have here Pakistani Muslim enters race for lieutenant governor and vows to fight Trump. Is this Pakistani Muslim Democrat planning to fight Trump every step of the way on eradicating ISIS, preventing terrorists from killing Americans, and deporting illegal alien felons from the U.S.? Will the Sacramento Bee or anyone else ask him? Don't count on it. It says here, Asif Mahmood, a Democrat and a Muslim doctor from Los Angeles, on Wednesday announced his run for California governor with fighting President Donald Trump, the centerpiece of his campaign. As a Muslim immigrant from the great blue state of California, I'll be a triple threat to Donald Trump. Mahmoud said at a press conference outside Immigration and Customs Enforcement headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. He says, "I'm running for office to fight against him and fight for our families." Mahmoud, from a small village in Pakistan, said he came to America to become a doctor. He said healthcare, education, and fighting Trump are his top 3 campaign issues. Now, from Breitbart, I have Montana Democrats vote against banning Sharia law, and they call it repugnant. Yes, Montana has been the most recent state who has defeated legislation that was trying to be put into place to ban Sharia. I have here Democrats in Montana have opposed a bill banning the use of foreign law in its state courts on the grounds that such legislation would target Muslims. Now, this is just the most recent state to do this, but I also have from Press and Guide recent story as well. State rep from Dearborn opposes legislators' foreign law bill as well. So it's not just Montana, but also in Michigan, I have a bill to prohibit foreign laws from being used in Michigan courts is drawing criticism from several state lawmakers, including local representative Abdullah Hammoud. This is a Democrat in Dearborn. The legislation proposed last week by freshman Republican Michelle Huizenga would prohibit the practice of foreign laws, including Sharia law, in Michigan courts. Huizenga crafted a bill S-1386 after news broke in the case of Jamana Nagarwala, a Detroit doctor charged with mutilating the genitals of 2 young girls from Minnesota. Yes, that is FGM, female genital mutilation, which does still happen, not only throughout the world, under Islamic countries specifically, and of course in Islamic areas of North Africa. And yes, it does happen here in the United States as well. And it actually is a practice that is a practice that has been used ever since the time of Muhammad. This isn't something that came about later on that, we can say, oh, this isn't Islamic. If it's in the actual primary sources, if it's talked about in the Quran or the Hadith or the Sirah literature, the early sources, then we can say, okay, this is an Islamic practice, even though it's not practiced, of course, everywhere. It's not practiced everywhere where they're under Sharia to whatever degree that is, because, of course, you have countries that are under full Sharia. You have other countries that are only under Sharia for like family law, stuff like that. So, but the practice itself of female genital mutilation is something that is from would be considered something that the Salafis, these early generations of Muslims did practice. Now, I have a picture for you here that I want to show you, because talking about states that are banning Sharia and states that are not banning Sharia, more specifically foreign law, international law. This next picture here, to ban all foreign law, including Sharia, in every state across America. Now, this map is a pretty recent one. Of course, as you see up in the top there, Montana is not blue yet, because blue is actually states where they have rejected legislation. The red states are where they have passed legislation. And then the gray states are where there has been no legislation. So nothing has even been attempted to be put in place there. But as you can see, there are actually about 10 states in the United States that have banned on the books. They've officially banned foreign international law, which includes Sharia. So those states that are in red may be countries that you want to move to, or you may want to say, hey, I live in a gray state, and I want to go ahead and get these on the books as well. Why? Because any law that's foreign, that is international, will not line up with the Constitution and Bill of Rights, which is what America was founded upon. And those are the laws, the rights that need to be kept. We need to uphold that which we were founded upon. Now, I have here from WND, heavily armed Muslim warns U.S. public be terrified. If you did not see this story, I want to let you know about it, because this man actually walked into a conference that was happening, and he made this video. And after he made this video, he was not charged. So I want to play the video for you first of what actually happened, and then I want to give you the newest story on this. Let's go ahead and run the video now.
So I'm gonna get out of here.
There's no scanning of the crowd, no cameras are allowed.
I'm gonna get out of here.
You have your weapon with you?
Of course, but I'm gonna go. I just wanted to see how busy it was.
Okay.
All right. Well, you think I'm coming down every now and then?
No, but you were scanning the crowd.
Oh yeah, of course it was. I've been going. I'm on live right now at Facebook. So.
What is your name?
My name is John Smith. The Muslim John Smith. See? See all these fucking people in there? They're all scared. This parking lot is full, can't park anywhere. There's Hutterites in there, there's white people, there's old, young, women, children, everybody. That's what you've been reduced to. A pathetic fucking seminar. A 3-hour fucking seminar is what you've been fucking reduced to. Fuck all of y'all. So I'm kind of speechless here, man. The fucking parking lot is full as fuck. People parking on top of each other. Fucking Ideal Yardware, whatever the fuck that place is parked. That's full too. And you know, there's about probably 400 people in there, if not maybe 500. So you have your weapons with you. You know, if you want to be really scared, be scared. Be scared. Be scared. Be scared. Be fucking terrified. Be fucking terrified. And the ammo to boot. Right here. That's how I travel. That's how I fucking travel. Fuck all of y'all. This is just fucking bullshit. That's it.
Apologize for the foul language in that video. This is a video that that man made himself, and believe it or not, after he made that video through Facebook Live and posted it, the police had investigated and said he was in his rights to have these guns, to open carry, and to have the stuff in his car. They did nothing about it. But then after, so many people got a hold of them and told them that this is uncalled for. I mean, you cannot tell that this guy has a threatening attitude about him. He has all this stuff. So thankfully, the police ended up raiding his house, I believe it was a week or 2 weeks later, and they arrested him on one count of making terroristic threats. They also found methamphetamine and many drugs that were in his house as well. So we are thankful to hear that that story has been followed up on, that the police did do their job, that they did do what they should have done originally based on that guy's own video that he created and posted on Facebook. So again, we do apologize for the language with that. And again, that story is complete. Or we will keep you updated on what happens next, what happens with his charge, what happens with his ongoing story. Because that video went all over the place, became viral because of the content that was in there. People couldn't believe that the police did nothing at first. So thank you for being with us on Islam and the News, and we'll be back next week as usual. We're so thankful for you. Please continue to pray for us. Please continue to support ABN and the Trinity channel as we get these news stories out to you that you will not find in the mainstream media. The different videos that we play for you, you will not find in the mainstream media, but we're letting you know what's actually happening out there and keeping you informed about what you need to know. So thank you. And please pray for us as we pray for you and pray for the non-Christians throughout the world, that you would repent and put your trust in the Lord Jesus Christ, that you would truly come to know God, that his love would be expressed to you through the gospel of his Son, his death and resurrection. God bless you, and we will see you next week.
ABN and Trinity Channel is on a mission to spread the gospel to the entire world, but in an efficient way that will benefit the viewing and learning experience to anyone who watches this channel. Learn step by step on how to watch the digital tree and get the most out of your learning experience. First, go to Trinity Channel or abnsat.com. Then click on the Digital Tree tab located on the top of the page. Lastly, choose a channel that will interest you the most and enjoy. If you need assistance on how to install a